if it relates to anything as a press release or anything that concerns communication on a larger scale, everyone will stop what they're doing and get into this, and do this first, and then get in, go on with their other activities. I think that has helped us, to be honest. And so because of that, press, the relationship with press continue to be one of our key focus in terms of marketing and communication. And of course, all our campaigns that we do are centered around how we, can use it strategically along with PR. I think I've been, passionate about marketing. Um, I think since my early 20s, and I've been looking at suitable roles, and how I can communicate with customers. And I think this journey started with my MBA at IIM Calcutta. And once I finished that, a decade or so back, I got into a media house, which is Star India. And I was particularly part of Star Sports, the brand, the sports brand, which was just launching in 2013 as a separate entity from ESPN. The Disney had just bought, not Disney, sorry, it was just bought out from the local office, just bought out the full rights to ESPN, and they were trying to rebrand the whole network. And that's when the whole team was built anew. And we were trying to be part of the team where I was trying to assist the business with respect to corporate strategy and marketing. And I was part of, the launch of the Indian Super League, the football, the football tournament that is currently running as well, ever since 2014. So the first 2 years first 2 seasons of that football league was closely associated with Reliance, and their team, and Star was an equity owner at that point in time. So I think mass communication and trying to understand how and why we do certain things with respect to communication, that was something that I took as a learning from my early days at Star. And I was trying to build on that purpose. And the role I'm currently doing with Geotis, which is a cryptocurrency platform, we have more than 1 million users, investors who are trying to build wealth through cryptocurrency. But the key challenge that I see, as with what I saw with football in 2014, is the fact that one, not everyone understood it intuitively in India, and there's a big challenge with respect to education, and there's a big challenge with respect to trying to communicate with the user base in an appropriate way. And I think Geotis has been successful to some extent on that, and we are learning as we go along, in this space. And I'm learning too. It's interesting how the investors react to certain things that you talk to and communicate with them. And it's always a process where you try to optimize it, and then suddenly something changes all of a sudden that you have to redo the whole thing again. So that's the kind of excitement that I love in this job, if you can call it like that. But it's been really interesting journey for me. I've been with Geotis for more than 1.5 years now, and we're trying to build this platform as reputable and safe environment that investors can trust with their money. So that's essentially what we're trying to do. Right. So when the objective of the business and the brand itself is to communicate in certain vernacular regions and certain vernacular languages and to the audiences. Now, naturally, we went and established a separate team that could handle a relationship with the press in regional markets as well. I think the observation that we have got while doing this is that on a national basis, the English media houses have adopted crypto as a field to cover pretty sooner compared to the other vernacular newspapers or media houses, right? And we've been we've been kind of aggressively going and building relationships, and not only building relationships, trying to convince certain journalists to start covering crypto, whether it's a personal finance, a section on a website, or whether it's something that's related to, in general, financial markets, or anything to do with wealth, or stuff like that. So we are actively seeking relationship with such journalists, and the way we do that is, of course, using platforms like Visiki to try and understand who is covering what and how do we integrate that. And also we've hired some people who have worked in the industry in certain regions who have those relationships to manage. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, my 70 to 80% of my PR coverage still comes from English media houses. And I wouldn't call that necessarily a bad thing, because it does give us visibility at least around I would say, the metros and other areas that we might need, and also probably to investment houses or stuff like that. But what I am looking at in terms of PR and communication, how much of that share that vernacular has, including Hindi, Tamil, and others, go up over time. We should be in a state where English coverage is about 20 to 30% of our overall coverage. I mean, these are brand mentions, these are quotes of our founders, and how whatever impacts crypto. And this is not only, I'm talking for the industry as such, not only for Geotis, because we want the vernacular coverage of crypto to be across the industry, not only for a particular platform like us. I think we can only grow if media houses can convince their their readers that this is a viable investment vehicle, and educate them how to do it. I think that these are the two objectives that I use, and we try to manage around that in terms of how do we build our relationships as well. I think it's a very interesting question, because I don't have a favorite kind of campaign, but I do have what works as in periods for us, right? Let's say there was a time into 2021, from April, May, June, where there was an aggressive television advertising done by a lot of our competitors, and this was during IPL, and this was doing that stage where crypto was also peaking. A lot of new investors are flowing into the industry, and the Bitcoin prices were taking newer highs every week. And at this around this time, Geotis, we are bootstrap company, so we did not have the, let's say, the muscle to probably look at television advertising at that point in time. So we relied on trying to focus on PR based communication to keep us growing in terms of course, other aspects of marketing, which is influencer marketing and performance marketing continues to happen. The main thing that I could focus on when everything around the industry was very, very positive and suddenly everyone's taking notice, was how I can structure PR to ensure that Geotis as a brand continues to be relevant, right? And that's I think that I'm very proud of those 2 to 3 months where our user base grew 3x in a span of 4 to 5 months. I mean, yeah, it does sound weird, or rather quick growth, but 3x within 4 to 5 months is something that the business team also did not expect. And this was essentially led by PR, led by relationships that we had built in certain areas and certain media houses and certain performance-based campaigns that we did on top of that. But the base layer was always press and PR, right? And these matrices, we eventually tied down to the user metrics in terms of how many people actually on board to the platform, right? We're not in the stage where in terms of how many people are actually trading or what's the trade volume, and I think those are the secondary and third layers of matrices that we track in terms of the business. But the real matrix which we track is how many people are trying to be interested in crypto investment and how many are onboarding with you on a platform level, right? So within those 4 to 5 months, we got a 3x in user base. And I would say the base layer for that growth, in spite of no, say, investment that we had as a business, was our relationship with the media houses and the press, campaigns that we did. And we were, one of our PR agencies, the team got awarded for being, within their internal organization, that, GeoTest campaign was one of their most successful campaigns. And they got awarded. And I think the way we did it, one was focus on vernacular. And second thing is, we knew we did not have the muscle power to, let's say, pay our way through certain things. But that doesn't mean that, we can't do things around it, right? We were always available. We made sure we were quick and swift in our response. We are always available whenever the journalists, journalists are also people who are trying to understand this industry. And when they are in such a phase, and even today, we face this in vernacular journalists who try to want to understand, but they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. So we are taking education to the journalists first. And then, trying to be available, trying to be even a small, even a trivial kind of a question that they might have. We're always willing to be, have that dialogue and that communication going. I think those are the things that we did right. And those are the things that our founders were always available for a chat, always available for an interview. I think it's almost a mindset that we had as a business, right? If it relates to anything as a press release or anything that concerns communication on a larger scale, everyone will stop what they're doing and get into this and do this first, and then get in, go on with their other activities. I think that has helped us, to be honest. And so because of that, press, the relationship with press continued to be one of our key focus in terms of marketing and communication. And of course, all our campaigns that we do are centered around how we, can use it strategically along with PR. We do have a measurement platform which helps us with performance marketing. We try to understand, where sources are coming from, where the traffic is coming from through the app. And we started with a website-based, let's say, product to becoming an app first kind of a product. And that's when we got in a measurement platform, and we've been partnered with them for more than a year. And we're trying to, understand where our traffic comes from and, which side of things. The main things that we look at, other than that, is the fact that we integrated Google Analytics, and we try to understand where our users how forward they go within the app or the website through Google Analytics, as well as we just partnered with a company called Mixpanel, who also gives us a detailed info on the user behaviors and the marketing analytics that you would get from which part of the country and what they're doing, and to what extent they are engaged with, and to what extent do they go before they say tune off or tune in. I think on a regular basis, the key metrics is that I look at personally is how many people log on to the app regularly, and I think this is different from the user base that we create, because the user base is always linearly increasing. Linear or exponential, doesn't matter. It is increasing. Now, you don't get any insights from that, but you do get insights from how many people want to engage with your app on an on and off basis. And any new feature that we add to the platform, we're always looking at how users are engaging with those. And we do have our internal matrices and internal CRM as well, that our tech team has developed, which will give us data on how many people are using trades or certain features that we have set up recently. And if you have ordered a new coin, how many people are actually using that coin or investing in that coin. So there are things that we take a short-term view on things, or matrices like this, for a particular feature or a particular this thing. on a long-term basis, I'm constantly looking at MAUs and DAUs to understand what's happening in the ecosystem. And this I tie it with the narrative that I check in the ecosystem itself. Whether there is a positive correlation to, let's say, crypto industry having a week of losses or a week of growth or stuff like that. So we tie that to this, and of course we also use WizKey to understand how as a brand what we are doing in the in the market. What's our share of voice or share of brand mentions, and we continue to track those matrices and see if we can add had relationship with certain journalists who are covering other platforms but not us, or to whatever extent we can. So as a brand, we want to, as I said, we have to aim to be a credible and trustworthy brand. For one, the investors to park money in, and two, for the industry to take notice and understand that you are one of thought leaders. I mean, Geotis started in 2017 in the crypto space. At that point in time, we were one of the few exchanges that continues to be around for like almost 5 years from that point in time. I think only 4 or 5 have survived from then. I mean, we used to have 30, 35. So there is something that we are doing right and something that we want to be continuously doing. The main thing that I look for user feedback is the user ratings that I get on Google Play Store, Google, Facebook, Trustpilot. I think we continuously within our industry and within the platforms that we track, within our competitors, I sit in quote, because we are all building the ecosystem together, so we're all friends in a way. But within this ecosystem, we are one of the top rated platforms, and I continuously listen, and I always have a tab open that I personally check, in terms of what the actual feedback is from users. Of course, there is a team that is trying to address that as well, but I'm also very, very specific to to see and read what's happening, at least on a weekly basis. I think PR is very important. I mean, and this is for any industry in India, right? There is always a limit to what you can achieve with, let's say, branding or performance marketing or any other vehicle that you use. PR is kind of completing that circle for you. There is always a possibility that your press releases and your press-based engagement will reach far wider audience that you would actually do when you use other vehicles. I mean, I can put an ad, but that ad will only convey that I exist in the market, will not convey what I think or what is the fundamental rationale with which my brand is working, right? And to achieve that, to communicate that with a wider audience base, whether it's national media or the vernacular media, I believe you can only do more in PR to get that. There's no other vehicle that has that power even today to get you that communication going very well for you. This is India specific, right? And I think because Geotis is looking at vernacular route to growth as such, right? So we'll be focusing more of our efforts, I would say, in building relationship with media houses, vernacular media houses, and also trying to see if we can make them start covering crypto regularly. And as my stated aim, right, with respect to communications, is that media houses should cover crypto and to educate their readers about crypto. Whether they end up investing in crypto or not is secondary. I think it's important that people understand what crypto is, or cryptocurrency as class is, what are the risks involved, and how they should go about investing. There's a lot of myth that you put 1,000 rupees and you take 1 lakh out in crypto. That might have happened for 1 or 2 people, but it doesn't happen for 99% of people, right? You have to play the waiting game as much as you would in any other investment as a class. So probably crypto will give you better returns over time. This over time is a 4 to 5 year time period rather than a 4 to 5 day time. So we are trying to communicate certain aspects like that, and I think my communication team is growing day by day. I think whatever efforts that we continue to do, in spite of the recession or in spite of any macroeconomic headwinds that we might have in the future, I think if there is one activity that I will not stop, is essentially that my relationship building with the press and trying to make them cover crypto more. I think there is generally, from, let's say, 10 years back when I used to work in Star, there is a general acceptance of data, and in terms of what journalists also want to cover. I remember the journalists wanted quotes which are more subjective in the past, but now they are asking for data as well. I mean, so there's certain journalists are pinging me late in the night and ask me what has this crypto done over this point in time and what is that. I think when journalists are going data led in their communication, I think it's important for brands like us to also react to that and ensure that any communication that we send out to them, first of all, have data that is relevant to the audience, right? I think that's the first step in using data in press and stuff. The second thing is, of course, tracking, what we are doing as a brand in press and communication. I think that's something that, that there needs to be, I would say, more acceptance in terms of brands saying that, okay, we're not only doing, it's not enough if you're just covered in, let's say, 2-3 national newspapers or media houses or whatever, right? Through your relationship, you need to understand what is the reach, where is it going, how is your brand performing compared to, let's say, others. And it should not only be subjective, like some journalists calling you and saying, hey, this guy is doing this, why aren't you doing that? I think that's how press relationships used to work, but now it should be based on matrices that define, okay, so this month Geotis got, say, 12% of share of voice, right? What can I do to make it 20% in, say, 5 years? Sorry, not 5 years, 5 months or whatever, right? If I'm looking at that kind of objective, then I would understand that, okay, this is not only in a particular segment that I'm looking at. I probably have to expand my segments. I probably have to talk to certain media houses which are unique or boutique, but cover my segment a lot better than, let's say, some of my competitors who are looking at probably a different segment. I think that's another key area that we are also trying to adopt. Right now it's a top-down kind of an approach that I'm trying to tell my team this is what we should be aiming at and stuff, but I'm trying to empower my teams to come with a data-led approach themselves in terms of planning for campaigns, whether it's press releases or press-led or communication to wider audiences across vernacular audiences or even nationally. So I think that's an evolution that I am also waiting for, and I think it's in the right path, and it would take probably some additional concerted efforts from the industry as well and professionals as well to get there. I think the best thing that end professionals can look at is how curious they are about things. And when I entered, and I wasn't a sports kind of a guy when I entered Star Sports back 10 years back. When I entered crypto, I wasn't a crypto guy. In fact, these industries are new to me when I enter. It doesn't matter if you're naturally passionate about the industry that you are in. What really matters is how curious you are about learning about the industry itself and what works and what doesn't work in an industry, right? Every industry, basis the time period that you enter, will have its own set of challenges, will have its own set of communication objectives, right? And on the industry-led communication objectives, you all have your own brand that you represent, which has its own communication objectives. Now you have to marry that and understand that in the time that you have, let's say you have an assignment for 1 or 2 years with a brand, you have to get to understand them within 3 months, right? Only then you can progressively help the brand do things that work for the brand. So I think having a curious approach, to things and trying to understand more helps. That's the first thing. Second thing in general would be nothing is beyond you, in a sense. I always tell my team, you might be, your role and your designation might be certain thing. Do not restrict your thought process to that. Your KPIs might be restricted to that designation or the role that you are in, but your thought process need not be restricted to that role. If you have if you have found that a certain product feature might help the brand, and this can come from, if you're a communication professional, you talk to journalists on day and night. Someday you will find an idea coming from a journalist saying, why isn't this there in your brand, or this product feature? Now, are you reacting to it just to say yes or no or whatever, or are you taking that feedback back to your organization and trying to tell them that this is something that you can do? This is something that we might do. So then what we do as a team, we might do a dipstick, try and understand if the larger user base wants that product, and then we can see if we can actually implement it, right? So I think do not restrict your thought process to the designation or the role that you are in, and try and always be ready to hear what is happening in the industry and what feedback you're getting. I think that is important as well when you start off. And so I would say curious, be curious, try and learn as much as you can, even if the industry is alien to you at the start. And second thing, always have your ears open. See if any feedback can be passed on to the management when they're least expecting, and that's when you actually make a difference.